Today I want to start by showing you a simple puzzle. Can you count how many times the balls are passed by the girls in white in the following video? Okay, focus only on girls in white. Remember, I just want the number of times the balls are passed among the girls in white t-shirt only. You can start counting now. You got a count right, and you are probably correct. But what matters is that 50% of you didn't see the black gorilla among the ball-passing girls. If you have seen the gorilla, then you wouldn't have seen the color of curtains changing in the background. Can you really trust what you see? Ask yourself. Is this your reality? We only see things which we are trying to see. If you are looking for something, you only see that, and the rest becomes Maya. This phenomenon in modern terms is known as inattentional blindness or selective attention blindness, and it demonstrates how our brains can filter out information that we are not specifically paying attention to. Imagine you watching a moving horse in the dark. Is the horse moving forward, or we moving backward, or time moving forward with the horse, or we moving slow compared to the movement of the horse? Is the horse turning right, or is it turning left, or is it standing still while we move around it? The light comes on. As you get closer to it, you realize it is not really a horse at all. It is just your perceptions of truth and reality. This is a silly example of how our perception of truth can be influenced by our own limitations and biases. Inspired by the teachings in Vedanta, let me scientifically break down your current reality and prove to you that you can't really trust anything in this world and what you understand. Our journey to find truth and reality starts from childhood, where we initially accept whatever our parents tell us as the truth. However, as we grow up, we realize that our parents' opinions may differ from each other, and it is not possible for both of them to be right. This realization often leads us to question the truth that we have been taught, and we start searching for the truth ourselves. In our quest for truth, we often turn to the public. However, different people believe in different truths. Some believe in religious texts like Bible, Quran, and Gita, some in different political ideologies, and some others in conspiracy theories. There are flat earthers, and there are people who believe that man never landed on moon. It becomes increasingly difficult to believe in any particular truth as we realize that everyone has their biases and opinions. We may even start following celebrities and eminent personalities, hoping that they will lead us to the truth. But we soon realize that they too have their own agendas, and we cannot fully trust them. Ultimately, we come to the realization that the only person we can trust is ourselves. We can only believe what we see, hear, or think. But let me tell you that you can't trust yourself either. You probably believe that you can trust yourself and that you can believe what you see, hear, or think. Well, let us break your reality. Think back to your childhood. Remember the happy times playing with your friends, the scary moments that made it hard to sleep, or even something that you're ashamed of. These memories have shaped you into the person you are today. But here's the catch. There's a high chance that these memories are not entirely accurate. It's tough to accept, I know. Let us see the science of contamination of the brain. Our mind works in mysterious ways, and as soon as a moment passes, the moment becomes a memory. The brain takes these memories and fuses them together, creating a story that may not be entirely true. For example, let's say you went on a trip with your friends on a particular day. Another day, someone made a joke that was memorable, and your brain fuses that memory with the entire trip you made if there is something to relate. You may remember that joke as part of your trip that you had, even though it didn't happen at that specific moment. Or maybe you went to a nearby lake with your friends and had some beers. Your brain might mix that memory with other similar ones, like throwing up on another occasion or falling off your bike with friends. In your brain, there are several such fused memories. Such contaminated memories make the current you. Our brains also personalize memories, and they can even make someone else's memory feel like our own. If someone told you about seeing a ghost when you were younger, your brain may start to make it feel like your own memory. Or if someone told you about a kidnapping attempt, your brain may start to incorporate that into your own memory. You may start to think that there was a kidnapping attempt on you when you were a child. Let's see how our brain can contaminate our memories, leading us to believe things that aren't entirely accurate. Let's say you've always been afraid of snakes. You've never actually encountered one in person, but you remember seeing images of snakes on TV, such as a documentary where a snake is shown killing another animal. Over time, your brain may start to associate snakes with danger, and it might even create false memories that reinforce this belief. So, even though you've never actually encountered a snake in person, your brain has fused together different memories and created a new memory where you believe you saw a snake killing an animal. This false memory can then contribute to your fear of snakes, even though it was based on something you saw on TV. As the psychologist Elizabeth Loftus once said, memory is not a videotape that remains constant over time. It is more like a Wikipedia page. You can go in there and change it, but so can other people. Our memories are not always accurate, and they can be influenced by a variety of factors, including our own beliefs and perceptions. Our brain is a remarkable machine that can sometimes play tricks on us. It's not just about distorting our memories, it can also confabulate them. For instance, you may have a memory of being chased by a pack of dogs when you were a child, but in reality, it never happened. Your brain just created the memory based on some other experiences you had. Similarly, you may have a memory of falling into a pond, but in reality, you never did. Your brain simply created the memory by mixing different events together. These confabulated memories can also affect our behavior and emotions, such as making us shy or fearful. In fact, a study conducted by Julia Shaw and Stephen Porter in 2015 found that police officers can convince people within just 1.5 hours that they committed a crime in their childhood. It's scary to think that in just a couple of hours, our brain can be manipulated into believing something that never happened. This shows that our memories cannot always be trusted, and we need to be aware of the limitations of our memory. So, the next time you have a vivid memory, take a moment to reflect and ask yourself if it really happened or if it's just your brain playing tricks on you. Confabulation is when our brain makes up details or events that never happened, but presents them to us as real memories. Your long-term memory is the one that is fused, confabulated, contaminated, and personalized by your brain. At first glance, you may believe that what you see is what you can trust. After all, if you witnessed a magician read your mind or saw an accident, it must be real because you saw it with your own eyes. However, this may not always be the case. Your brain has a way of interpreting what you see, and it may not always be accurate. Your vision is not just a one-way street where you see and process what is in front of you. It is a two-way street where what you see is influenced by what you want to see or what you expect to see. For instance, if you see a person in the distance, you may assume it is your friend. Your brain will tell you that it is your friend, and you will continue to see your friend until it becomes obvious that it is not. This is the same reason why people often see scary things in the dark. Your brain has a way of creating things, especially what you are looking for. Even when you look at shadows in the dark, your brain fills in the gaps and creates images for you. Furthermore, in the bush, if you are hoping to see a bird, your brain will be more likely to make you think you saw a parrot when it may have just been another green leaf. So, while what you see may seem trustworthy, it is important to remember that your brain has a significant role in shaping your perception. Remember the horse illusion in the beginning or the famous spinning girl illusions. The girl can't be spinning in both directions. But your brain can make her spin in any direction you want by concentrating on the girl. In simple terms, what you see is what you wish to see. Now that we established that you can't really trust what you see, we shall look at whether we can trust what we experienced, what we felt. It must be real, right? No, it's not. Ask a person who recently had a breakup whether he has felt real love, and you will get a good idea. When you use a Ouija board, you may feel like your hands are moving on their own to spell out messages. However, it is actually your subconscious mind controlling the movements, often without you even realizing it. Similarly, during religious or spiritual sessions, you may feel like your hands are being lifted up. This is because of a phenomena which is the result of the infamous ideomotor effect. It's important to remember that the ideomotor effect can also occur in everyday situations. For instance, you may feel like your phone is vibrating in your pocket, but when you check it, there are no new notifications. This sensation could be a result of your subconscious mind playing tricks on you. To put it simply, the ideomotor effect is the phenomenon where our subconscious mind can influence our physical movements or sensations, leading us to believe that they are occurring without any conscious effort on our part. This means that what we may perceive as a supernatural or paranormal experience, such as moving a Ouija board or feeling a spiritual presence, may actually be a result of our own subconscious mind at work. You now believe that you are a logical person who can trust your thoughts and reason, that you think rationally. However, I must tell you that your thoughts cannot always be trusted either. This is because small things can influence your thinking, which is known as cognitive bias. The primary constituent that affects your thinking is a kind of cognitive bias known as confirmation bias. This is the tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses. For example, if someone believes that a certain political party is bad, they may only seek out news sources that confirm that belief, rather than seeking out opposing viewpoints. Another bias that affects our thinking is the availability heuristic. This is the tendency to rely on readily available information, rather than seeking out all possible information, when making judgments. For example, if someone is trying to decide which city is safer to live in, they may rely on news reports of crime in one city that they remember, rather than seeking out statistics on crime rates in both cities. Anchoring bias. This is the tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information encountered when making subsequent judgments. For example, if someone is told that a car is priced at $50,000, they may assume that a similar car priced at $30,000 is a bargain, even if that price is still too high. When you walk into a store and see a price tag marked as €99, you might assume it's less expensive than it really is. This is because our brains are wired to focus on the first significant digit, and overlook the rest. For example, our brain sees €19.99 as a smaller amount than €20.21, even though the difference is just €22. Our brains have a tendency to simplify things, especially when there's a lot of information to process. Even if there is a vegetable among a lot of fruits, our brain term the whole thing as fruits. As a result, we might miss important details or make snap judgments based on incomplete information. There is something called hindsight bias that affects your thinking. This is the tendency to view past events as more predictable than they actually were, after knowing the outcome. For example, someone may say, "I knew all along that the stock market was going to crash," after the fact, even if they did not actually predict it beforehand. Framing bias is another type of cognitive bias in which the way information is presented can influence how people perceive it. A classic example of framing bias is the glass half full or half empty scenario. If you describe a glass as half full, people tend to see it as a positive thing, while describing the same glass as half empty tends to elicit a negative reaction. Another example of framing bias is in advertising. Advertisers often use positive or negative framing to influence consumers' perceptions of their products. For instance, a laundry detergent might be advertised as 99% effective rather than 1% ineffective, even though these statements mean the same thing. The positive framing makes the product sound more desirable, while the negative framing makes it sound less effective. In the context of politics, framing bias can also be seen in the way that issues are presented to the public. For example, if a politician presents their policy as pro-family, it's more likely to be viewed positively than if they present it as anti-single. The framing of the issue can influence how people perceive it and whether they support it or not. Another bias affecting thinking is the in-group bias, which is a phenomenon where people tend to favor and support individuals or groups that they belong to, such as their religion, country, sports team, fan club, or political party. This bias can lead individuals to automatically assume that the actions of their group are correct and just. For example, a person who is a fan of a particular sports team may believe that the decisions made by the team's management are always the right ones, even if they might not objectively be the best choices. This bias can create a sense of group loyalty and identity, but it can also lead to a lack of critical thinking and an unwillingness to consider opposing viewpoints. It's important to recognize that there are many things we can't necessarily trust, including our memories, vision, thoughts, and experiences. Even science, which some may believe to be a reliable source of information, is not immune to errors and changes. Discoveries and theories are constantly being disproven or revised, and assumptions are being invalidated even in fields like mathematics. The concept of phlogiston, a substance believed to be responsible for combustion, was widely accepted in the 18th century until it was disproven by Antoine Lavoisier's experiments on the nature of oxygen and combustion. In mathematics, assumptions and axioms are constantly being revised and refined. For example, Euclid's axioms, which were widely accepted as the basis for geometry for centuries, were revised in the 19th century by mathematicians like Georg Friedrich Bernhard Riemann and Nikolai Ivanovich Lobachevsky. Even the recent Physics Nobel Prize-winning research on universe is not locally real is disproving Einstein's theory. Consider a car accident that happens on a busy street. Witnesses who saw the accident from different angles may have varying accounts of what happened. Some may say that the driver of one car was clearly at fault, for some others, it was a cat that jumped in front of the car that created the accident. While others may argue that there was another driver who should have been more cautious. Another witness say that it was a brake fail. Each witness may have a different perspective based on their own biases, experiences, and interpretation of the event. This highlights how the truth can be subjective and influenced by personal factors. Your truth is not my truth. Your truth today is not your truth tomorrow. It is all like an illusion, just like the concepts of Brahman or Maya in Vedic terms. Before going out to the unreal world, please make sure to hit the real subscribe button.